Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the webinar to everybody, anybody who might be watching the recording, unless we trim it. But anyway, uh, we're open for business.
Can you hear my
And yeah, huh?
Can you hear my Rocky music when I play it?
I currently can't. Good mic you got there, Jeff.
That's a bummer. I was trying to get it to give us some pump up music, but I guess I'm the only one getting pumped up.
I'm seeing
Got my
some
best.
Polish names in on the attendees list. That's nice. Hello, Marcin, Paweł, Tomasz. That's so nice. Hello to everybody else as well, of course, but just thought I would give a shout out to my people.
Yeah, let us know in the
Just a
chat
moment.
where you're from. We always like to get build out the map of where everyone's from. We've been worldwide every webinar, so exciting to see where everyone's based out of.
Yeah. Where you're from and your favorite dish. It was just Easter in many places in the world, so tell us about your favorite dishes for Easter or otherwise. Q&A. Chat is disabled. Oh, good catch. Good catch. Everyone. Wait, no.
Good call. Thank you, Karen.
Oh gosh, thank you so much, Karen, for that. That would have been okay. Now tell us where you're coming from and your favorite Easter or otherwise dish. Kalish, cool. Never been, but hope to visit one day. All right, just an extra minute here. Somebody saying, hello, Jess. Tennessee and is it deviled or deviled?
Deviled eggs.
Deviled. Love the name. Always like that name. Somebody from Italy likes pizza. I am shook. Okay, good. Good. Banana split. Okay, that's cool.
Crabs.
Thanks
Crabs from
everyone for
Maryland.
sharing.
I've had crabs with some Old Bay in Maryland. I had that like last summer. Delicious. Delicious. Peter, I'll have to get some from you sometime. I'll come visit.
Brazilian barbecue. Consistent. Somebody from Poznan. Hello. Okay, we should get started. Wait. Okay, so that we answered about the chat. Good, good, good. Okay. Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to today's ZenPilot webinar. So good to have you all with us here today. Today, we'll be talking about how to build a CRM in ClickUp. It says here with ClickUp's #1 solutions partner, that's us. That's us here at ZenPilot. We're ClickUp's #1 solutions partner, both highest rated and also historically first ever. That's a fun fact for you already. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. So this is on Zoom. You've got the Q&A section there, and please use the Q&A section if you have questions. One question that always comes up is, will there be a recording? Yes, there will be a recording. Maybe you're watching the recording right now. We'll send the recording via email up to 24 hours after the event. So no need to worry about that. Don't be shy in the chat. Tell us about your needs in terms of the ClickUp CRM topic that we've got today. What are you looking to learn about? Or you can drop your questions in the Q&A section already, and we'll be having a look at that. As we go through the content today. Some of it might be answered in the content, and some we'll just leave for either Q&A at the end, or we try to answer the relevant questions as we go through the presentation that we've got here for you today. And for more events like this, in case you're not doing that already, be sure to follow ZenPilot on LinkedIn, and following me and Jeff would also be a great idea because we do post about ClickUp a lot. We share advice from ZenPilot a lot, so you'll be well served by that. 2 words about ZenPilot. We help agencies and other businesses actually as well. I was just recording a client interview with somebody who was running an internal creative marketing department, so we help those kinds of organizations too. But what we help with is we help agencies and other organizations cancel chaos, primarily project management, operational chaos, and create clarity so that you know who's working on what, when stuff is due, and what you can expect in terms of workload capacity. Can you take on more business? All that kind of stuff. That's very briefly the problem that we help to solve. And with you on the call today, wow, I haven't even introduced Jeff yet. So with us on the call today is Jeff Cipher, our productivity professor. Jeff, can you tell everybody how you're doing today, please?
Hey everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Cipher, as Kuba said. I'm the productivity professor here at ZenPilot. Super cool title, Get to teach about being more productive But I'm doing great, Kuba. It's very rainy in Pittsburgh. If anyone's near Pittsburgh, it's basically been flooding the last couple of days. So spring has sprung. At least it's not snow, but I would love some very sunny weather. So if anyone out there is in the southern states of the US, please let me know. I'd love to grab some of your sun and bring it over to Pittsburgh. But in terms of a little introduction of me and who I am, just so everyone knows, I am a marketing consultant turned operations nerd. So, been in the marketing space for a while. Love the whole marketing realm. Kuba and I get to do a ton of marketing on the ZenPilot team here. But through all of my marketing work, I fell in love really with the operational process side of things, and also fell in love with ClickUp. So that's really how I found ZenPilot here. And I've helped over 100 different teams all over the world build more productive, profitable, and healthy teams inside of ClickUp. So super excited to be talking today about CRMs in ClickUp. We're going to get very, very technical. So hopefully you have some sort of ClickUp background, but if not, no worries. We'll get you up to speed.
Yeah, if you ever need to get up to speed, we have a ton of tutorials, primarily from Jeff, on our YouTube channel. So for more content like this, definitely check out ZenPilot on YouTube as well. And I think, Jeff, you went through basically everything that we wanted to share on this slide. I mean, we're ZenPilot. Jeff is one of the best ClickUp nerds in the world, and we've got on the team. We've got a bunch of them, and if it can be done in ClickUp, we can do it. If we can't do it in ClickUp, it cannot be done. We can quite comfortably lay claim to that. And let's move on to, let's get closer to the presentation that we've got on hand today. So first of all, just in case you were wondering a little bit more about what can be achieved with what we call the ZenPilot system on top of ClickUp, once you've got everything that we talk about at this webinar and in various other places, once you've got all of that in place, once you've got your work broken down, turned into processes, once everything is assigned, each subtask on a one-to-one basis to one assignee with time estimates in there, with ClickUp templates that you're deploying in a consistent fashion, what becomes possible is throughout your whole organization, you are able to track, primarily for a services business, utilization and profitability to a very granular degree. So what becomes possible, and what I wanted to show you in case you want to look it up, is our profitability reporting. So if you ever wanted to pull out, again, primarily for a services business, pull up, your budget and your profitability per client, per service line, or filter by account manager and look at how they're managing their budget. Look at the service lines that might be making you the most money, or the clients that might be actually losing you money. This all becomes possible, and the ClickUp CRM and having the right ClickUp setup is one piece of that puzzle. So total clarity looks like this. The top of the mountain looks like what you've got on the screen right now. And I won't go at length about this because we have content about this that's dedicated and separate, but do search for ZenPilot profitability reporting. We've got a YouTube demo about this. We've got a whole dedicated landing page for this. So just look that up. Finally, what you'll be seeing here today, our ClickUp CRM solution, you can get that implemented in your workspace right away if you go to zenpilot.com/CLUP-CRM-template. And for today, we've got a special discount code for you. If you use ZenPilot30, you'll get 30% off that template. Now, you very well may look at the solution and just draw inspiration from it, and use some of the techniques here to improve your workspace. But if you want the easy button, if you want the quick way, here it is: zenpilot.com/ClickUp-CRM-template. And with that out of the way, and without further ado, Jeff, why won't you take us through the agenda for today, what we'll be discussing in greater detail?
Awesome. Thank you, Kuba. So yeah, today, as I mentioned, we're going to get super technical inside of ClickUp. I'm going to be actually walking you through step by step how to build out a CRM. And as Kuba said, if you want this template that I'm walking through with all the automations, the custom fields, the views already set up for you, so you don't have to spend probably weeks and weeks of time building out the initial structure, you can go ahead and get that on our website for 30% off. We'll probably leave that for about the next 24 hours. So yeah, maybe don't do that now. Wait until I go through this and then get it later so that you're not distracted. But anyways, in terms of the agenda of what we're going to be talking about today, I first want to bring up the question of should you build a CRM in ClickUp? So we'll start there. While I'm going over that, the question I want to ask everyone today is really sort of what is your structure like right now? Like, are you using ClickUp as a CRM? Or what are the tools that you're using for a CRM? So are you using ClickUp and HubSpot? Are you using ClickUp and Salesforce? And so feel free to put that in the chat. What tools are you using? And then maybe if you are using a CRM instead of ClickUp, just let us know that. I'd love to kind of see what everyone out there is using so far for their CRM system. And cool to see a lot of answers starting to come in right now. But in terms of answering the first question before I jump into everything else is, should you build a CRM in ClickUp? And so my answer to that, and I'll jump into a lot more in further detail as we go on this, is you can. However, I would recommend, depending on the size of your business, teams that are maybe a bit larger, there are things that HubSpot, Salesforce, or Pipedrive can do that ClickUp simply cannot. And I used Salesforce and Pardot for a while. I've also used HubSpot, and there's a lot of marketing automation and just easier and a lot more functionality that those tools are going to offer that ClickUp just will not offer. There's some workarounds you can do in ClickUp, but you're just not going to get the functionality that you will in a HubSpot or a Salesforce because those are CRM systems. Yes, you will end up paying for them, but as you get larger, that's probably what you're going to need, especially on the reporting and, again, marketing automation side that those software solutions can provide. However, what I would really recommend everyone do, and we talked a lot about this in our account management webinar a few weeks back, is you want to have a delivery CRM in ClickUp no matter what. Because nowadays, your delivery team, especially for all those that are in client services businesses, your delivery team is living out of your project management system. And I'm going to show you today how to build this out. But your delivery team is living out of ClickUp or whatever project management system you're using. You might not be using ClickUp right now. Maybe it's somewhere else, but they're living in ClickUp. That's where all their work lives. So it's super helpful to have a CRM in there where they can track things like client health, NPS scores, objectives, start dates, end dates for the projects and things like that. Get all that information into ClickUp because they might not have access to the HubSpot or Salesforce. So you want to make sure you do have at least a delivery CRM built into ClickUp. But I'm going to go through everything else from sales CRM to delivery CRM to tracking leads. We'll go over all that today. So yeah, that's the first part. In addition, this agenda, I'm going to be going over our CRM structure in ClickUp, as I mentioned, and then also just really how to build it from tracking leads to tracking deals, automations, and also building out a delivery CRM overall. So from there, Kuba, I will go ahead and take over the screen and we'll jump into ClickUp. And again, as we go through this, please feel free to just let us know maybe what questions you have overall as I jump into the setup. Because if you've been on our sessions before, you know I can talk about things in ClickUp and I can get a little carried away. So feel free to take me back a little bit if you have any specific questions or want to dig into any of this stuff any further. But without further ado, it looks like my screen's good to go. Kuba, could you just confirm, and maybe everyone else too, that you could see my screen?
Yeah, seeing it. It's coming through.
Awesome. All right. Well, in terms of the overall structure, again, as I said, we're going to be pretty technical in this, but I want to start with a few things. And the first thing is really going to be the overall hierarchy and how your CRM should be set up. So I've gone over this in a YouTube video, so maybe some of you have seen that or even our article on our website. But if not, we'll kind of start at the high level and then jump into each of these pieces. But in terms of how the hierarchy should work for ClickUp as a CRM, you want to make sure that your CRM is a completely separate space from the rest of your hierarchy of the rest of your spaces. So if you've gone to any sort of ZenPilot webinar or are familiar with us, the way that we build out client services business or agencies is you kind of have your growth, you have your delivery, and your operations. And that's where your active work is going to live for each of these different sections of your business. Like growth is going to be your sales and marketing. Operations is going to be kind of the HR, the people, the accounting, the finance, and then delivery is going to be all of your client services. In addition, you'll also have a process library where all of your process templates live. And the reason we build that out is because ClickUp has a beautiful template center, but you can't edit templates inside of that template center. So it's helpful to have those source files somewhere. And so for that reason, we build a process library because this becomes the construction zone as well as just the source files for all of those process templates that you'll want to optimize as time goes on. But in addition to all of that, you then have a CRM space, which is where your CRM is going to live. And the reason this is completely separate is because ClickUp is technically a task-based system. They've now added a task type field a native field into ClickUp that kind of lets you divvy up different task types, which is kind of moving into this direction of being able to create a CRM system, because you might have actionable tasks living in here, but these are all more records. And before, there wasn't really an easy way to distinguish between the two, between regular tasks and records. We have used a drop-down custom field to do that, but now you can just use a native task type custom field. And for this, these are all going to be records. So we want to make sure that they're separated out from the rest of our work. So that's why we would do that. And now how this works is you break the CRM up into different lists. So what I have here, and the most important, is going to be this deals list. In this deals list, you can name it deals, you can name it account dashboard, you can really name it, like we've named it, a health tracker as well, really whatever you want. This is going to be the most important list that you have in the CRM. And this is why I was talking about there's a delivery focused CRM, and this is where you can just store all of those active client deals in here. That way you have a single sort of view on everything that's happening across your business, especially when it comes to those active clients that you're servicing right now. Because as you can see in this deals list, I have all of my deals as they're labeled as ClickUp tasks, but these are more record type tasks. As we'll see here, we have Dunner Mifflin ABM retainer, Athlete ABM retainer, Laverne's Pies, SEO and CRO retainer. So I'm breaking this up based off of really those contracts that we have for each of these clients. So one company could have multiple deals. Maybe you have a retainer and then maybe you have a project. So that's kind of why we have a deals list and a companies list, but I'll get into more of that in a little bit. But here within this list, this is where all of our deals go. Again, we have a bunch of views at the top. I have all of these deal records down here as tasks. We use our comments field. We have a bunch of custom fields here to label things like statuses, the due dates, which are kind of when maybe that client meeting is happening, the overall services that they're receiving. Super important, we're storing our health scores, and this is going to actually be an internal health score that your account management team would label, just so we can get that information to kind of know, like, hey, is there potential fire that's coming that we need to put out before it becomes a big issue? So we want to make sure that health score is always labeled on a weekly basis. That way your sort of head of client services is able to see all of that and catch any flags before they become fires. In addition, we can track things like objectives, billing, start date, end dates, the lengths between the start date and end dates, sales lead, delivery leads, and then also we can relate these to companies and contacts as well, but I'll talk about that after I go over those. But again, this is going to be the most important list, this deals list. At the high level, again, this is sort of your account dashboard where all of those contracts are going to be labeled as tasks in here. That way you can get all the information out of your account management team's head and into the system here. So that's the first one, is deals. After that, again, is companies. So this is then taking all the companies that we have a current contract with. So we have Athlete, Dunner Mifflin, Laverne's Pies, Poor Richards, all the way down to ZenPilot. Now I'm able to store out the addresses, the URLs, the team sizes. So the reason I want to put that in a separate list is because I don't necessarily need all these custom fields on the deal records. Like I don't need the address or the URL. I could if I wanted to, but I want to break out the companies into a separate list, because then what I'm able to do is relate that information to the deal, because one company, again, could have multiple deals if you have a retainer with them, but maybe also a website project. So there might be one company to 2 deals or 3 deals. It's not always a one-to-one relationship. But as you can see here, the cool part about ClickUp is if I'm here, I am able to add a relationship field that allows me to, again, relate things to different lists. So if I were to come over here to add a column to build that, which I already have it built out, but you could add a relationship list like this, or a relationship field. You can name that whatever you want. And then as you could see, you could pull tasks from a specific list. So let's say if I wanted it to be companies, I could do that, and then I could create it. And then what that does is it allows you to select a task from this company's list over here and relate that to your specific deal. So the cool part now is if I were to click into this task, I'm able to see that information right here. So I'll be able to see my relationships. And then if I wanted to see data that's coming from that company, I would be able to pull it in right here by adding a column. So if I wanted to pull in the address, the URL, or the team size, I could basically build sort of that single source of truth for that deal record by relating it to the companies and relating it to the contacts overall, and then being able to see all that information here in one place. So it's really cool. That relationships field is really what helps bring the CRM to life overall. But as you can see here too, I have all these custom fields labeled here. So I can see the deal stage, I can see the sales lead, I can see the start date, end dates, revenue, billing, all of that information is right here in one place. A cool thing you can do as well, you'll want to have the health score, which that is sort of the internal health score from your team. Your account management will kind of adjust that every single week based off of what they think. But then you can also pull in NPS, and we can do this, automate this process. You can get this from Retently and then pull it in via automation directly into ClickUp. So all of that information is getting stored in one place. So those are just the things you can do. Again, there's a bunch of automations and integrations you can hook up to this as well. That'll just make this process a little bit easier and help you create that single source of truth. But again, that's a deals list, the companies list. Then we have contacts, which contacts, again, these are just relating the contacts to the company. So we want to make sure we have this information here just in case we need to know who to contact so that we have their email, their phone number, their LinkedIn account, job title, get all that information into this as well. So as you can see here, I have Jim Halpert. This is all of his information that is then tied directly to my athlete ABM retainer and the athlete company. That way, if I were to jump into Jim and I wanted to see all that information, I could come here and just, again, see the record, see the information all in one place. Either in this contact, I could go directly to the company or the deal as well if I wanted to click into that task. So again, it just helps me navigate from place to place to see all of this information directly here. And then the last list, and this is going to be leads, and I'll spend a decent amount of time on this is because this is really where you start to bring in some marketing automation that ClickUp can do. You'll use up a lot of automations with ClickUp automations if you are building sort of a lead tracker in here, which I'll show you in a second, but that is also another list you could put in here. You could have leads, contacts, companies, and deals. Kuba, are there any questions out there before I jump into really the nitty gritty and going through some views and stuff like this in these lists?
Thank you for asking, Jeff. No questions thus far. I think people are holding off a little bit. So
Awesome.
don't be shy, everyone. If you've got a question, leave it in the Q&A section, not in the chat, please. Not in the chat, please. Leave it in the Q&A section. And also, you might want to monitor the chat if Jeff mentions something that we've got additional materials on. I am sharing those with you. So for example, we've got a blog post about custom task types. And also, if you're curious about this whole ClickUp setup, the operations growth delivery process library spaces that you can see on the left hand side there, you can grab our full 56-page ultimate guide to ClickUp for free. Just go to the chat or go to zenpilot.com/clickup-guide and you can get that for free right now. Oh, one question just came in. Let's have a look at it then. Renato is asking, if I have multiple business units, do I have to create different spaces for each business unit, or should I use one CRM and segment everything inside views? Okay, I'll raise my hand. I'll say I'm not sure what is meant here by business units. Do you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's just maybe one parent company, and then you have sort of different sections of the business overall in there. I mean,
Gotcha.
I would say based off of what I'm hearing and not doing much like digging into this question, it's really what you want. And I would just determine sort of how many records you think you might have inside of one CRM system. And then think about if you would ever have to break those up as well, like as maybe one business unit got really big and the other got really big and you wanted to move those apart. Maybe it's easier to just keep them apart right now as opposed to trying to do that later on. But as I'll jump into views, if you wanted to just create one because there's not a ton of records in here and it's easier just to have one system, that way the team's not having to go from one to the other. You could just put it in one CRM and then use a custom field labeled business unit that allows you to, again, create a view at the top here to filter down by just that specific business unit. So you could do that, but again, I would kind of look into how many records you might have inside of that CRM. If it's way too many and it makes sense to divvy them up into two different CRMs, then you could do that. But again, there's multiple ways. There's not a right or wrong. Those are just my thoughts on that.
Okay, awesome. Well, Jeff, you asked for questions and you got them. We've got 3 more coming in. I guess I'll just go in chronological order. If there's anything in there that you've got, material for later in the presentation, then we'll just wait for that. Brandy's asking, hi, Brandy. The biggest obstacle so far with moving into ClickUp for a CRM is the absurd address book issue where email addresses can't be designated. Are you familiar with that?
I'm actually not on that one. I have to dig into that a little bit more, but Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what exactly that is meant in that question.
Yeah, Brandon, if you can give us more detail, maybe that'll jog our memory. But otherwise, we'll have to take that one
But
offline. Okay, let's take a yeah.
I was gonna say we have a bunch of questions. Maybe as I go through this, some of these will be answered. So maybe we just jump into uh, some going through this, and then maybe at like 12:35, 12:40, we stop for some more questions.
That sounds good. So leave them in chat, everyone. I'll assess them and pass them on to Jeff. Meanwhile, Jeff, you're good to continue.
Cool. Yeah, keep them coming as we go, and then if I don't answer them, then we'll jump into those. But um, the other big piece of this is obviously going to be the views, and we have a bunch of views at the top here that I want to jump into. Let me just organize my Zoom here because things are getting blocked. But as you can see here in the deals list, all of these different views are just kind of ways of managing sort of different things. And that's why you build your custom fields into this, because then you can use them to group, you can use them to filter down by certain things, and allows you to really show only the records that you want to see in a particular view. So the active accounts, this is going to be a big one. We leverage active accounts as well as account health probably the most. Active accounts is just kind of your home base for this. It's where you can kind of see all the accounts that are active and grouping them by status. And this is very helpful for us as we go through our delivery team meetings, because on this list, I just have all of them listed out: who's onboarding, who's active, who's offboarding. And then I'm able to see those health scores as well to kind of see if there's any issues or not. And one big thing I want to mention in this deals list is the whole using comments piece of this. And so the current workflow that we operate on is every single week, and this can be bi-weekly or weekly, whatever you want to do. After you have that client weekly review call, or you could do this at any time. It is very helpful to do it after your weekly call, monthly call, whatever it may be, the current cadence that you have. That's when you're going to have a lot of context into how the client is feeling overall, how the project is currently progressing, and how well we're doing in terms of results on actually hitting these objectives. So what we do every single week is the account manager for these accounts will come through and leave a comment on all of their deal records here. So if I come in here in a Dunder Mifflin ABM retainer, you'll see I have this weekly update. And so in this weekly update, we're answering 4 different questions here. So why would the customer be unhappy? Are you happy with this account? Have there been any changes in strategy or timeline? And then what do you need help with on this account as well? So I'll go through every single week. You can use, we actually use Text Expander for this. Text Expander is a super helpful tool that you can just kind of pop this template up with all the questions and then answer them like that. You can also just copy and paste it from a ClickUp doc or something like that as well. Or you can use a custom command in ClickUp to have all this information. But I'm going to go through, I'm going to answer these questions because this is going to provide information on the health score that I'm also going to label every single week. So if my score is a 4 or a 3, I should be labeling why is it a 3? So why is a customer unhappy? What do we need help with on this account? This is where I can actually mention someone and say, hey, we need a new creative on our team, or we need another copywriter to get this back on track. Or maybe this is just the client is so far behind on their stuff, and that's the reason that we're behind on this. So what that's going to do overall is it's going to provide a very helpful view for your client services, head of client services, delivery team to know how these client projects are progressing, if there's any issues, and if we need to jump into any calls as well. So I can come into this, and as you'll see, all of these comments that I leave every week, again, maybe this is every other week or once a month, this is going to give me very good information, good data, because all of these comments are going to stick onto this record right here. So I'm going to have all of my weekly updates. I'm going to have all this data right here as well to kind of know how this client progressed across our relationship. So if this is a year-long retainer, we'll be able to have all those weekly updates to kind of see when it went great or when it didn't go great. And then with this as well, I can make good decisions to know, hey, is it time to ask for a testimonial from this client or a referral, or maybe we need a little extra hands on deck because this isn't going so great. So that's very helpful information. If I can recommend one thing that you do, especially for any agencies out there that are watching this, implement this sort of deal account dashboard here with these weekly updates as well as the health scores, because that's been very transformational for a lot of businesses that we've worked with.
Jeff?
Yep.
Okay, so if I could bother you with 2 questions that seem relevant for what you were just discussing. One is, I guys asking, from your experience, is it better to track health? You were just talking about this. The health of deals or clients, as in companies? Which one is better?
This one, because it's on the deals list, we want to do this on the deal because you could potentially have a website project that's going like this health score is not just designed to be like, how is the client feeling? This is also designed to say, how are you feeling? How is the project progressing? And are we reaching that objective? So maybe you're reaching the objective, maybe the client's happy and you're reaching the objective on a website project, but you're not reaching the objective on that ABM retainer. So the client, the website project could be a health score of 5, but maybe the ABM retainer is a health score of 3. So you want to make sure it's on that deal or that contract because, again, this is not necessarily just tied to the client. It's the health score of that overall relationship for that specific service that you're providing.
Okay, okay, lovely. Thank you for the answer there. And another one is from Brian, and this goes into the habits piece. So I wanted to sure that we hit that at a relevant moment. It's a two in one question. So the first one is, who in the team is usually assigned to update ClickUp projects? Is it one traffic manager or all project managers collectively update their own projects? And in the case, that's the second question. It's related. I think it's one answer. In the case where some may not have the habit to update consistently, how do you tackle that?
This is kind of beyond the CRM overall. I mean, this is a larger kind of conversation on how the agency is structured. We do have our workload management for agencies that maybe that's a resource we can provide, Kuba, because this is kind of like agencies can be operated in different ways. So sometimes you might have a project manager that's the one kind of updating projects, updating due dates, updating basically everything inside of ClickUp. But sometimes you get larger where maybe you have specific team leads that are in charge of that. So you just want to make sure you have good structure that each person knows what they're in charge of and what they're not in charge of. So sometimes it's, again, you have your account managers, you have your project managers, then you have your individual contributors. Just make sure that, like, the way that we do it is the account managers are kind of in charge of demand and strategy, and they're the ones that are building out the overall, like, this is what we're going to do. And then they pass that to the project managers to say, like, hey, in what reasonable timeline can we actually complete this and do this for the client? And then the project manager is the one that's working with the individual contributors to kind of see, like, what does workload look like? How much capacity do we have? Do we need to bring on anyone new? And where can I actually fit in all of this work? And then they actually go and plan it out inside of ClickUp. And then again, the project managers are in charge of updating due dates and reshuffling work around because that's their role. But again, it's just all have a clear structure and role for members of your team and sort of build out your agency that way. Again, I don't know if that necessarily answers the question. I think we're getting a little outside of the CRM conversation, but I can send this workload management guide that we have that kind of goes over those three resources there.
Okay, so I'll drop that in the chat. I wanted to just add, just generally speaking, in terms of not having the habit to update consistently, we as ZenPilot talk about the three keys to fixing chaotic project management. One key is the tool, the second is the processes, but the third, and arguably the most important, are the habits. You need to work on those and train your team on that. And the ultimate guide to ClickUp that I linked earlier in the chat, I'll relink it in a second, goes into that. So we'll move a lot of this, the follow up on this offline. But Brian, thank you for the question. Jeff, I'll turn it back over to you so you can get through more of what we've got for today, and and keep going through the presentation.
Yeah, so I just dropped that resource in there. Again, it goes over the demand, resources, and fulfillment. That's kind of how we label the account managers, project managers, individual contributors to kind of have a good structure there. But let's jump back into this overall. So again, this is really the most important piece is this deals. Again, you could call this account dashboard. You could call this a health tracker, but this is really the delivery side of the CRM. And with that, again, we have the active accounts. That'll be sort of the main view that you're going to be looking at. We also have account health. Again, this is where we're grouping by health score. So this is very helpful to just kind of see overall, like, who's doing great, who's not so great, and who's really in the red here. As you could see, Serenity by Jan. We have a status. They're offboarding right now. Health score of 3, not a very high NPS. So clearly we didn't do great on this engagement overall. And that's where, again, it's helpful to have all of those comments left in here too, because then you can look back of like, what happened here? Was this just not a good fit of a client? And you can help sort of refine your ICP as well over time by just having that data in the system to kind of know like what went well, what didn't go well, why was this not a good client for us? And you can kind of make some adjustments that way. So always helpful to have all that additional context in here as comments. So now looking at a few other views here, I'll get into the deals and pipeline in a little bit. But another one is going to be activity. So this is where you can roll up, and this is the cool part about ClickUp is all these different kinds of views here. The activity view is a great one that I can kind of just see all of those comments that are happening across this specific location. So if I just wanted to see comments, I could make this activity view that, again, I'm able to see all of these weekly updates that are happening inside of this deals list. So if you just want to see that, so for the head of client services, it's very helpful so that you don't have to go through task by task by task looking at all those. You go to the activity view, you can read through all of these. You can actually leave comments on them if they need anything. You can just give them a thumbs up as well to know, hey, I've read this. But it's a great way for your leadership team to kind of get all those comments funneled up and just read through them very quickly in one place to kind of catch anything that might be happening. In addition, a few other views, like it's nice to have a table view in here because it's just a kind of a great way to show all of the data. Looks just like a spreadsheet. It loads a bit faster in ClickUp, and I can kind of see all this information in one place. So that's helpful to have. But in addition, we have other things like all of your inactive accounts, which I can just show these ones. So which ones are inactive or maybe offboarding, and I can label primary inactive reasons. So maybe it's poor communication. You can see the health scores. Again, all the comments will be living there as well. So it's helpful to have all that historical information in ClickUp. The other cool part is with this, if you were to take this due date of this sort of record and make this when the client meeting actually happens on, again, a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I can come over here and go to client calls, and this is a calendar view that I'm able to see, again, when those calls are. So athlete ABM retainer, that one happens on Wednesday. And if I wanted to put that actual time in there, I could. And then I'm able to kind of color this by the health score. So I can see these ones are all 5. So me as the head of client services, maybe I'm good. I don't need to jump into any of these. But if I were to see one that's, hey, yellow or red, that's kind of telling me, hey, maybe I should jump into this call and have a conversation with Jan because she gave us a low NPS score and the health score is low. So I can come in here and get some context from the account manager to jump into that conversation and just kind of figure things out, maybe add some additional resources, or maybe it's just not a good fit and we need to let this client go. So this is kind of a great way to use the counter view, just be able to see when those calls are happening for me to jump in if I'm the head of client services. So overall, that's the deals list. The companies and contacts, there's not too much in here. The cool part about ClickUp as well is the ability to create a client map. So if you go ahead and create a map view here, which the cool part about ClickUp now, I don't know if everyone noticed this, but the new view layout here. Let me know if you like this. I love it. I think the UI is very clean. They just changed this not too long ago, but as you can see, these look a little bit different than they did a couple of days ago, which this is really cool. It's really modernized, and hats off to ClickUp for this. But as you can see, you can add a map view here into ClickUp, which allows you to, based off of this address field. So if I come here, as you can see, athlete, that one's in Austin, Texas, Dunder Mifflin. All of those are going to be shown on this map. So I can see where all of my clients are. That's where Serenity by Jan is. Over here, we have ZenPilot. Over here, we have Advanced Refrigeration. So I'm able to see all that on a map view, which is just kind of a cool feature to have here. So if I were to zoom out, we can kind of see if all of our clients are all over the world, and we get these little pins based off of where our clients are located. So that's a cool part to have. Nothing too crazy there. And then contacts. You don't need too many crazy views here. There's not a ton of different custom fields in these besides just basic data points. But from there, the other really cool piece of this is going to be the leads list. And this is where now we're kind of shifting our focus from the delivery part of our CRM into the sales side. And so again, this is where there is some marketing automation you can build into this. There is some cool things you can do with ClickUp, but this is really where probably a Salesforce or a HubSpot or a Pipedrive are really going to thrive compared to ClickUp. But I wanted to kind of walk through this to show you that it is possible to build this inside of ClickUp. So my leads list here, as you'll see, I have just one lead labeled here. This is myself, really great lead for us. And then all of the data points here as well. So the way that you could build this and actually get leads into your system is the way that forms work inside of ClickUp is that whenever a form is submitted, like a form is going to live on a list here. So if I were to come here and I can actually build out a form view, just like that, I could add a form to this list. And essentially what this is going to do is anytime this form is submitted, it's going to create a task on this list. So that task could become the lead as you see here. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and delete that one. If I add a form like this, I could essentially create a form for maybe all of the lead magnets that we have, or maybe this is like a contact us or book a call form. I can put all that information into this form and then build this so that I can track leads. In addition, I can also set up automations where I can go and send autoresponders. I can send emails from this, sending them the resource. But we'll get to that in just a second. But as you can see here, I'm creating a form for our ClickUp guide, which is our sort of main resource that we have on our website. I can add in a description for this as well if I wanted to add additional detail. And then a couple other things. The way that these forms work is these form fields are all tied to custom fields. So you want to think about if you're creating a leads list, what are those custom fields or what are those fields that you want to be able to capture from a form submission? So for our case, like name, that's something we want. As you can see here, this is just going to be the task name. So if I come back here, like that's what it would look like. So they'll have our lead, they'll fill that out and they'll just put their name there. Then we have email. We can tie that to an email custom field for them to fill out. Company, that'll be tied to a company custom field. Phone number, that'll be tied to a phone number custom field. Team size, we have that right there as well. That's actually going to be a drop down. Things like job title, and then also form submission is another one that I could put on here, which this one's a little bit complex, but I'll get into that in just a moment. But it's very easy to edit these forms if you've never done it in ClickUp. If you have, like, all you're going to need to do is you can just drag these. If I wanted to get a LinkedIn form field filled out, I could do that. I can go and remove this from the form as well. If I wanted to add a new custom field, I could go ahead and create a field right here. But again, this is going to grab all the information that I need to get enough data onto this lead. And so when I'm done with that, I can actually go ahead and copy the link and I can either embed that into my website. I could just have a button that goes out to that. I can send that to people, but I'll get that form all filled out for me to use overall. A couple other things that you are able to do here. One I have here is going to be sending it to a thank you page. So if you have a form, essentially here, the response is just going to be a basic response from ClickUp. What I'm able to do is I can actually send this to a redirect URL if you're using a thank you page. So I could do that instead of having to use this, which makes it just a little nicer of an experience. It makes it look more like a full out form as opposed to maybe just one on ClickUp. Just adds it and makes it a little bit nicer overall. But after you're done with that, what you're going to do is I'm going to copy my link. Got to get some of this Zoom stuff out of the way, and we'll go ahead and paste that in there. And again, what that's going to do is someone's going to fill that out, and then it's going to actually go and populate a lead here on this list. But one other thing to note here for this is you'll see if I go back to editing this, what I did is I went ahead and you can actually make hidden fields on these forms. So as you can see here, this one is called form submission. Essentially what this field is for me is going to be what form did they fill out. So what I would recommend is you have a different form for all of your different lead magnets. So if you have a bunch of different lead magnets, maybe you have a book a call, you want to have a different form for each of those. That way you can use that to sort of automate some autoresponders like emails, which I'll show you what those look like in a second. But you want to make sure that you have some way to have a trigger for an automation that allows you to send the correct email autoresponder. So for that, I'm going to hide this field. So if I come over here, I'll actually show you what that looks like. Now let's find the form field on details. As you can see here, this is the form field that I'm going to be filling out. So we have ClickUp guide or book a call. Again, this would be labeled based off of all of your different lead magnets that you might have or different types of forms. And so what you would do with that is you'd be able to automate, again, that email response to say, hey, here's what you just requested. Here is the overall asset that you were looking for. So if I come here into active automations, I'll show you what this looks like. And I have a ton in here, and this is where I was saying it can use up a lot of your automations in ClickUp if you don't have the enterprise plan, if you have something lower than that, you'll probably run out of automations if you have a ton of leads coming through. But as you can see here, what I'm able to do is I can use email automations to say, hey, when a task or subtask is created from this form, so as we can label it that way, and the custom field is equal to form of ClickUp guide, then I'm going to send the email to the actual email from that lead with the how to use ClickUp guide. So as you can see here, all this is labeled out. I have all the subject line filled out. I have the body, and it's all in there for them as soon as they fill this out, just as any other sort of marketing automation platform would work, like a Pardot or a HubSpot. It's going to do the same sort of process with that autoresponder email. So in order for me to do that, just to backtrack, if I go here to this ClickUp guide form, you'll see I had that hidden value here. So I don't want them to actually fill this out. I just want this to be automatically populated when they fill out this form. So what I'm going to do here is, as you see, when I actually, if this was hidden and I copied that link, you're going to see up here in the URL, the form submission equals X. So essentially what I could do is I can fill that out right there by typing in ClickUp, and then we have ClickUp has a helpful resource on this, which I'll actually send to everyone here in this chat that actually shows you how to do some of this stuff. Just send it in the chat. Well, what that's going to do...
Jeff, could you send that again, but set your chat to everyone?
Oh, did I just send it to panelists? Whoops.
Uh-huh.
There we go. This just has the hidden fields, which I'm going through right now.
Okay, and just I'm going to let you finish your thought. We got 15 minutes to go and a few questions coming in, so let me know when you're ready for them.
Cool. All right, so what this is going to do now is once I actually hit enter and I actually go and fill this out. So let me just quickly go fill this out with my information. Choose two companies, ZenPilot. See a random phone number. Hopefully that, of course, it doesn't. Invalid phone number entered. Like that. Let's find one that actually works. Now what this does, if I download now, as you'll see, this is actually going to send me to the new URL that I put in there from the redirect URL. And then in addition, what it's also going to do is, as you'll see, if I come here, it's going to send that email to me automatically. So as you can see here, all of those emails are going to be left on the comments. It says, hi, Jeff Cypher. Thanks for requesting our 56-page guide to help you get the most out of ClickUp. So I set up that email automation for this to automatically be sent out to myself, in this case, based off of what I did. But if it was a different lead, it would actually go directly to them. So that's just kind of how you set up that autoresponder, just to make that process a little bit easier. But in addition, a few other things that I automated in this process, if I go to my automations here, I can also say, in terms of maybe we want our sales team to actually go and nurture this lead and respond to them. And maybe we want them to start sending, maybe call them, or maybe send an email via sales. So what you can do, again, we want these to be only records inside of the CRM. What you're able to do is say, hey, when a task is created in this leads list, maybe I want a task to be sent to my growth space where our actual sales tasks are living. So as you can see here, again, a similar automation. When a task is created, we're going to create a task here inside of the growth space, just for someone to review the new lead and complete their prospecting tasks. So as you can see here, I can also add a description. If you have a template in there, you can deploy a task directly from that template. And I can say, this is going to be due today. It's going to be assigned to whoever that sales lead is. And then I can go ahead and click save. And you'll see what this looks like over here. This is actually living in our sales list. That task will then live here, and it says review the lead in the CRM and kind of go through all this information. They can click directly out to that lead and find it. Of course, now there's an error for me here, but that's going to go ahead and put it for them to review that. So there's a lot more that you can do with this. Again, that's sort of the initial steps, just to be able to track those leads. Then you would be able to have views like lead nurturing, where your sales team can actually go through, and whoever they're the contact owner for, they're going to actually go and they can send emails directly out of ClickUp if they wanted to. So if you've used emails in ClickUp, that's another helpful thing. I can actually add in templates and things like this to here. So as you can see, if I wanted to, I can send from myself here. send out this email, and I can use email templates. So there's a lot of stuff that you can actually do here inside of ClickUp, very similar to a system like HubSpot or Salesforce with Pardot. So there's, again, a lot that you can do. Those systems might have a little bit more functionality in here, but you can replicate and build workarounds for a lot of that stuff here inside of ClickUp. But I know we're running low on time. There's still some more stuff to get to, but I'm sure we'll come out with some videos here on this as well. But again, all of this, if you want all of this template, as well as the videos on how to actually use it on the sales side with tracking leads and deals, companies and contacts, that template is going to have all the training as well as this structure that I just went through today.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we do have a few more questions, and I'm going to pull up the presentation at the same time. On my end, is it okay if I take over the screen?
Sure.
Ready. 1 second. Okay, so what you'll be seeing on the screen is a link to our resources page, where you can get the aforementioned ultimate guide to ClickUp, 56 pages of good stuff, all for free. Some plug and play templates you'll find there as well. I believe we have a client onboarding template there that you can grab for free, and more video trainings from Jeff and ZenPilot that I'll start with. And now let's see if we can get through some of this Q&A before our time runs out. So I've got one question here from Rob. That's chronologically the earliest. I think partially you answered this by showing off the forms. I just wanted to know if there's another way. The question is there any way to pull in a contact into a new parent task into the correct custom fields?
The correct way to pull in the contact into a parent task in the correct custom fields. Yes, I mean that you'd use that relationships field that would pull that contact. It's going to be a manual process, not going to be automated, but you would just take that relationships field and direct that contact into the deal record. But I'm guessing this is asking whether or not like you're using parent tasks and subtasks. I think that's the one thing that a lot of people do right now is they have sort of the company as the parent task and then the subtasks or the contacts, which that's going to be a little bit different of relationship. We build those out in separate lists and then use the relationships field in ClickUp to be able to send those from one to the other and build that relationship. But I'm not sure exactly if that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, I think on top of the form that you showed off, that should be it. Let's get to the next one so we can answer as many as we can in the short time that we have left. Aga is asking, hello Aga, how do you connect deals from the CRM with the actual work done in the delivery space? Let me know if you need to take back the screen share for this.
No, I mean, the answer I would give here is that we don't necessarily connect all of the work that's happening. I mean, the best way is just based off of the setup. So kind of what we do is all those deal records are going to match sort of the folders and list structure that you have in your delivery space. So each client is going to get their own folder, and then each list is going to be kind of reflected based off of those contracts or those projects. So it's going to be kind of reflected that way. And then if you wanted to use the task linking feature, you could. That's going to be probably more work than it's worth it. So it's not a direct connection. It's just sort of like different types of views. So that's sort of your account dashboard where you're kind of seeing the health and then all the work is happening in the delivery space. So again, no direct connection, like linking all that work to there, but it's just kind of two different views that you would have.
Okay. Now, Craig came in with a question about forms versus the process library. From your point of view, how is a form differentiated from your ZenPilot's concept of process library? A form is a process, correct? Is what the question says.
A form is not necessarily a process. I don't know. I mean, these are two different things. That we were building a form in the lead tracker to be able to kind of send that out, put that on your website to then get those leads funneled back into your system. I don't know. I'd have to get more information on that overall question. A form is not necessarily a process. I guess to answer this the best I could, you could have a process that comes from a form submission. So like a form could be submitted and then you have like an actual tasks of maybe it's a task template where it's reviewing the form submission and then kind of submitting any additional work from there. But I'm not exactly sure how to best answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the way we have ClickUp set up, even in our own workspace, we've got forms and templates in the process library. model tasks in the process library kind of working hand in hand. So you might have a form that triggers one of these templates that that instances of are presented in the process library. But the two, in my mind, they serve different functions. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I don't think we'll be able to hit all of them. Jeff, feel free to have a look at the list if there's any in particular that you feel are the most relevant.
Yeah,
Maybe let's
I can
take
fly
a.
through some of these. The one about business plan or business plus, as I was saying, a lot of those automations, like if you build out autoresponders, if you build out sort of tasks going in different places, like depending on them, like you're going to be very limited in just the business plan for automations. We sometimes recommend, depending on how much work you're trying to automate, the enterprise is probably going to be best for you. But all the features are in both those plans. It's just an automation limit for some of those. So if you run out of automations at the business plan, you're probably going to need to upgrade to Business Plus.
All right, gotcha. Anything else that you feel like there's a quick answer to?
Yeah. So Emily, for that one, you could. That's probably a limitation here with ClickUp as opposed to like a HubSpot or another system. Is the way that I was sending out that autoresponder, it was using the task name. So unless you were to kind of put their first name and last name into two different custom fields, which I think could be a little bit clunky, there's not a good way of doing just their first name because I can't take just like I can't split that task name because the task name becomes the name of the lead. I can't take that and say just use the first part before a space. So there's not really a great way of doing that unless you're only taking in first names from that form.
Yeah, gotcha. And for anybody watching the recording, the question was about the autoresponder email, whether you were able to make it different than sending dear first name, last name as the first line of that autoresponder. We answered that live. Okay, I've got a few more. I wanted to make sure before everybody has to dash to their next meeting that we go over the rest of what we got on the slides. So, first of all, again, what you saw here today, if you want to get that just added to your workspace by the ZenPilot team, go to zenpilot.com/clickup-crm-template. And especially today or the next, did you say 12 hours, 24 hours would be a great time to do so. Wait, what was the time frame?
24 hours.
You've got 24 hours to use the code ZenPilot30 for 30% off this template. So make sure to use that deal while it lasts. This is a slide about working with ZenPilot in general, because if you would like us to implement ClickUp for you, set it up for you, and set you on the best possible path to improving your operations and to making sure you've got gold standard project management, go to zenpilot.com/call. You'll get a project management assessment and an assessment of your ClickUp setup. You'll meet our team and we'll craft a solution for you and give you the full training on everything there is to know about the ZenPilot system in ClickUp. The process library, growth operations delivery, how to handle tasks versus subtasks versus checklists, how to craft good templates, and a lot more. And especially the habits you need to build to make all of this work consistently. Because without the right habits, all of this falls apart no matter how good your setup is. ZenPilot.com/call for that. And don't miss our next event. Again, I want to see if we have a few extra minutes here to go through the rest of the Q&A. But for our next events, we don't have one scheduled just now, but you can go to zenpilot.com/newsletter to subscribe to First Class Operations. Yours truly here sends that out every 2 weeks-ish. And I keep you updated on all the latest ZenPilot content, the tutorials from Jeff and other people on the ZenPilot team that you can access on our YouTube, our blogs. We also run a podcast called Agency Journey, where you can learn more about running an agency in general if you're in that space. And now for the questions, let's see how many we can get done before we have to finish off here. And if you have questions about any of the offers I just mentioned, leave them in the chat. Okay, Jeff, anything else for the questions?
There's one question I want to answer. Can I share my screen for this one?
Okay, you can.
And this one's about sending where is it? What's the process of moving from the leads list to the contacts list, and why have two separate lists? So yeah, this is very important piece of this, and I'll try to go through this relatively quick, just because I know we're at time here. But in terms of having leads versus contacts, leads are really sort of just contacts that aren't necessarily tied to a company and deal. So these are kind of the leads that aren't an open opportunity quite yet. So essentially the process for managing that is in this leads list, I can set up an automation. here that what it does is when the lead then turns into an opportunity, so we're going to use a life cycle stage here in a custom field that says when that moves to an opportunity, then move this lead into the contacts list. And there's other work that kind of flows from that as well. But as you'll see here, in terms of these lead statuses, I can kind of move these from lead to MQL to SQL to opportunity to customer and kind of down the line here. This is really, again, their life cycle stage. But when it moves to an opportunity, that then comes to a contact here. And then what we need to do is make sure that also a deal is created with that company as well. And that's, again, where some of this can be automatically done in HubSpot, where ClickUp, it's a little bit harder. But essentially, that would be the workflow. And then what I need to make sure I do, and this is kind of jumping back into the pipeline here, is I need to make sure that that opportunity is created here. So this would be like ZenPilot SEO project. We can put in all the information we would need, just like any other sort of pipeline in another actual CRM system, deal stage, objectives, sales lead, close date, revenue, lead source, and just make sure that is then tied to a company and this contact here. So then Jeff Cipher, what I would do is after I make that deal, I'm going to tie this to the ZenPilot SEO project so that it relates here to this deal. So that's kind of how I would look at it. And that's why these are two separate lists. Again, you don't necessarily have to have this one, but it is helpful to kind of have all of your leads in here. Once that turns into opportunity, it becomes a contact that's related to a company and a deal.
Okay, awesome. Looking at the rest of the questions, one is about integrating ClickUp and HubSpot, right? So I should drop some of our resources about that because we actually have dedicated guides about that. So I don't know if you want to get into that or should I just drop it in the chat?
Yeah, I would just say we have a resource on that, like a whole YouTube video that goes through it. Essentially, what you would do is if you do have HubSpot and ClickUp, you are able to kind of just use HubSpot as your sales CRM. And then once it hits closed one in HubSpot, you can actually send that record into your ClickUp CRM to, again, then be that delivery side so that your delivery team can use it. And then that can also automate any of the like onboarding tasks to be created. So we have a video set up for that. If you want to, we can send that in the chat here, Kuba, but that would be helpful, Peaches, to watch because that's going to go through using HubSpot as a sales, passing it over to ClickUp via automation in that integration that they have connected between the two systems.
Yeah, exactly. And it can really work beautifully. We do run HubSpot ourselves at ZenPilot. So yeah, those two can really work hand in hand once you have them well integrated. Okay, have you got time for anything else or shall we be calling it for today?
I mean, I'm happy if people have other questions, we can work through some of these, but if there's nothing else out there, then we can call it.
We've got two more questions. Do you see them?
What was that click here in that email? Does it send receiver back to ClickUp or something? I'd have to find where that one was.
I had a question in the meantime. The automations that we're seeing here, are they part of our CRM template that they can get from the site?
Yeah, so these will all be in there if someone wants them. They're all built out. Obviously, you're going to have to go through and edit these because they are sending out of my email and they're going to be kind of disconnected. You need to make sure you have that email click app turned on and set up your actual email account here. But all the automations with the basic setup are going to be built for you in this template.
Okay. Anyway, we were talking about that click here in that one email.
Yeah, I can't remember where that was. I don't remember seeing a click here. So maybe we'll have to skip that question. We can come back to it at some point.
All right, sorry, Aga, about that one. And the last one is also from Aga, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. Is any idea how to cover? Oh yeah.
I think that.
Oh,
Aga,
that's for zenpilot.com/call. Okay.
Yeah, so this is just coming from the email template. Again, you can put links in these. So if I were to go back to, and I think this is what was referenced in that question. But again, any like hyperlinks and stuff can all be built into this template.
Yeah, this particular one sends them to a page where they can grab a call with us. The easy button, Aga, is working with ZenPilot to have us implement ClickUp for you. That's what we call it, the easy button, the fastest possible way, where we guide you step by step. Should make that more clear the next time I mention it. Okay. And the last thanks, Aga. Thanks. Aga saying in the Q&A that we bought her. That's awesome. And the last one is any idea how to cover and click up the calling feature that Pipedrive has? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the feature. What would our answer be here?
I'm not sure if that feature is tracking calls in Pipedrive. You won't. I have not
Yeah.
been able to do that inside of ClickUp. I know there's some integrations and things like that, but yeah, I'm not sure how to necessarily answer that one because I'm not sure exactly what the Pipedrive calling feature can do. I'm not as familiar with Pipedrive as I am with Salesforce and HubSpot.
Yeah, same. I've used Pipedrive for just a spell at a previous company. Oh, one last one that just came in under the wire. With the HubSpot and ClickUp CRM template, is it possible to map the leads to or just trigger by closed one?
Is it possible to map the leads to or just trigger by closed one? So you're saying sync the ClickUp leads to HubSpot, or I think that's the question. I haven't
I
been able
think
to
so.
sync. Yeah, I mean, I would say that's going to be more of a headache than it's worth it. I mean, I would use HubSpot I would build all your forms. Like if you have HubSpot and you're using it as your CRM, that's going to be much better than ClickUp. This is kind of a way to build a CRM so that maybe you can cut costs on a HubSpot or
Hmm.
Salesforce. But again, I always recommend, like, depending on the size of your business, those tools are always going to be better because they have way better functionalities and features in them because they are CRM systems. Like ClickUp is not a CRM; it's a project management tool that it's so customizable that you can build things like that. But what I would recommend is all of your leads and everything is going to live in HubSpot. And then when a deal goes closed one, that just sends that deal to this deal list for your delivery team to now have as a record for them to kind of leave those weekly updates, for them to leave the health scores and track that after closed one. And then all the work is going to live in here. But I'm not sure if that answers the question necessarily. But again, I haven't found a way to sync ClickUp leads to HubSpot. And I just wouldn't do that. Like I'd keep all of your leads and stuff in HubSpot if you have it.
Okay. Thanks for answering. But it is true that, for example, when we close a deal at ZenPilot, the records that get created, the contact records, they do include a link back to HubSpot, right? That does come through.
Yeah, your deal record is going to be linked from it, but it's not
Okay.
pulling any leads or anything from ClickUp into HubSpot. So it's just going to link to it, not necessarily pull all of the data.
Okay. I was thinking rather the other way around from HubSpot into ClickUp.
Yeah. Like I said, we just use HubSpot as the sales side and then send it into ClickUp after it's
Yeah,
closed one.
sure. Alrighty. Okay. I think that's all the time we had for today for questions. We managed to get through almost all of them. Well, actually, no, we managed to get through all of them. Thank you for stretching us and pushing us to the limits here in terms of what's possible and testing our knowledge as well. So that's it for today's webinar. Don't forget to follow us everywhere I mentioned, subscribe to our newsletter and all that good stuff. And thank you so much for attending here today. More events and more educational materials are coming your way, so look forward to receiving them soon. Follow us on LinkedIn. Definitely check us out on YouTube. We've got a ton of good stuff there that you can go through. And yeah, don't forget to check out our CRM template. I'll be sending a summary email to this later on, so look forward to that. And that will also include a link to the recording, so don't worry about that. Anything else you wanted to mention, Jeff, before we go offline?
Nope, that was it. Thanks everyone for joining, and hopefully this was helpful.
Alrighty, another one in the bag. So cool. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
See y'all.